Hey y'all, so last week I mentioned that I'm getting back into tenor banjo after a couple of years focused kind of exclusively on mandolin and guitar. I've always played guitar, so I mean I play a little guitar each day, but I've been putting a good hour plus into mandolin practice every day for 2 years or so, writing my new book, Mandolin Mysteries Solved. If you haven't checked it out, please do so. It's on Amazon. Um, it's a really unique book. I honestly don't think you're going to find another book written on mandolin that's going to open the instrument up for you and explain how you can literally play in any key, any genre of music, sight read, play by ear, improvise, you name it, right? How to easily form chords, I mean, literally just any voicing. If someone says, I want to play something in E flat, let's say somebody wants to play something B flat. Let's say they want to play something with minor 7, sharp 9, whatever, flat 5, you'll know immediately how to make that chord. So that's been what I've been focused on the past couple of years. But last week I mentioned I'm getting back into tenor banjo, and I think it's really a good idea for mandolin players to also play the tenor banjo. I want to show you the differences and the similarities, which are far more important than the differences of the two instruments. Now, of course, this is a mandolin. It essentially has, well, it has 8 strings, but they're in pairs, so it's essentially a 4-string instrument tuned in fifths. What does that mean? G, D, A, E. Each of those notes are a fifth apart from the other one. Actually, E is the fifth of D. Wait, no. Where we go? E is the fifth of A is the fifth of D is the fifth of G, right? So it makes it a very symmetrical instrument across the fingerboard. All the patterns just repeat. Now, the tenor banjo is very, very similar. It is a 4-string, 5th-tuned instrument. So instead of having 8 strings, we have 4 strings, but they're played the same way because these are in sets and these are individual. But it's tuned 1/5 lower, so it's C, G, D, A. The chords are identical. They're just a little different position of the neck. Instead of playing my C chord here, okay, I'm playing it here, like that, right? Yeah. So you can see the instruments are very, very similar. Now, why would you want to play the tenor banjo? Well, first of all, I want to point out something. I'm going to have to take the mandolin off my neck for a second. There we go. Lay that down. Now, tenor banjo is a really unique instrument. You may notice I have some cloth here behind the bridge. This is about a 1925 Epiphone-made tenor banjo. This was made for the time of the Dixieland bands. This is when you would have horns blaring and drums, and this was the rhythm instrument before guitar became popular. This thing is incredibly loud. If I take, and I mean, this is extreme to put cloth under here. I've also put a t-shirt, an old folded t-shirt inside the banjo so that it's not so incredibly loud. I've used various banjo mutes that go across the bridge. They do barely anything to tone the volume down. If I pull these out, it's going to blow. I mean, the sound settings that I use for mandolin and guitar, where every now and then if I'm playing a little too hard, you get a little bit of overdrive, it gets a little fuzzed out. This would blow the entire system out. If I hit a chord on here or was even just playing single note solos, it is an intensely loud instrument. It's also an instrument with a very sweet tone. It's punchy, it's fun. People always say you can't play a banjo without smiling. It also gives us this extra range. I mean, we've really got all the notes of a mandolin from here, and because the neck's so long, up here. So we've got all our mandolin notes, but then we've got this low string down here. you know, if you want to do something like that. On a mandolin, it's just not going to sound the same. That's a very banjoistic tune. There's so many great tunes, but I mean, you notice the patterns of the scales. They're all the same as on the mandolin. So anything you can play on the mandolin, you can easily transfer over here. It does, the neck feels different. The frets are a little further apart. You have to get used to it, but it doesn't take that long. A little bit of Stardust. I mean, it has such a classic jazz tone. When Hoagy Carmichael wrote Stardust, the rhythm instrument would have been a banjo. Now, he was, of course, with the Whiteman Orchestra, and the great Eddie Lang played guitar in the Whiteman Orchestra. But you know who the highest paid guy was? It was Harry Reeser. Harry Reeser, the banjo player. If you've never heard of Harry Reeser, it's Harry, Harry, Reser. Look him up. Man, was he phenomenal. He drove the rhythm of the Whiteman Orchestra. I mean, he was the highest guy. You're talking a band with Bing Crosby singing, Big Spiderbeck playing trumpet, Eddie Lang and Joe Venuti. I mean, Gershwin on the piano sometimes. And the banjo player, Harry Reeser, was the highest paid guy. I think it's a beautiful instrument. Let me show you a few things about this. As I said, this is about a 1925. It's the name brand on it is Bruno, and it's the Bruno Glee Club model, which means it was meant for college students. This was certainly not their highest end, okay? But this was made by Epiphone. It has 2 truss rods in it. This is all bell brass around here. It has rosewood fretboard, mahogany neck, maple resonator in the back. This is a phenomenal quality instrument that I got for about $75. Everybody now thinks banjo, they want a bluegrass 5-string banjo. That's great. I play 5-string banjo. I play old-time claw hammer. Sometimes I'll take the 5-string off and I'll turn it to a plectrum or Chicago-style tuning, and I'll play jazz and blues on it. It sounds great. I love my 5-string. I'm from the mountains of North Carolina. I grew up with the sound of the 5-string banjo. The 4-string banjo is almost an entirely different instrument, and I highly recommend you get one. Now, what's the only thing I change on this? And I'm so hesitant to do so because my grandfather collected and restored antiques. He had a living history museum. I hate to compromise the integrity of quality. This is a handmade instrument. The tuning pegs. These are friction tuners. What does that mean? Well, unlike on your mandolin or your guitar or your modern banjo that has gears, so when you turn it, the gear turns, these are in here with friction, like violin tuners. You have to push them in real hard so that they're actually held in place by the wood. And then you tune, you push them in, you tune, and they go flat. You push them in, you tune. It takes like an hour to get the sucker in good tune. But then it holds pretty well. So that's why I have not changed it. I'm satisfied. Now, if I was playing this more in a concert environment, if I was going out into festivals with hot sun, cool damp nights, the wood's gonna swell and shrink and do its thing, I would absolutely have to put geared tuners on here. I don't know how the old guys did it. I mean, they didn't have anything else, so they worked with what they had. But yeah, geared tuners, and man, I mean, honestly, I wish I could take the mutes out and just like go to town playing, an old 1920s jazz song like this. but it would just blow you out. I mean, first of all, it would blow out my recording setup that I've used. It's taken me a long time to kind of get right, so it sounds pretty good. This is a sonic cannon. I mean, it is just an amazing instrument. And yeah, you're going to see a lot more of this. I'll probably spend about a year, you know, relearning a lot of things, learning some new things, getting this kind of caught up in skill level to my mandolin and guitar. A couple of years ago, I was really pretty good on it, but I laid it down to focus on other things. And maybe in January of next year, I'm going to say January 2027, I'll start doing a weekly tenor banjo lesson. So here's my advice for right now. If this interests you, and remember, any instrument can be played in any genre. While the tenor banjo is very much associated with classic jazz, early jazz, Dixieland, and even to some extent, gypsy jazz. Django Reinhardt actually played tenor banjo for a while. Eddie Lang played tenor banjo. He called it an instrument of torture, and probably because it was so loud. It can be played in any genre. You can play blues, you can play country on here. You can go back to some old recordings. There was a country band I can't remember the one I was trying to think of, but some Bob Wills' brother, I think it was, played banjo, and some of the Bob Wills recordings. Was it Billy Jack? I cannot remember. But some of the early Bob Wills recordings had tenor banjo. Sounds fantastic on there. Tenor banjo is often used in Celtic music. Usually this is like I said, the C, G, D, A. They'll use a shorter neck one that's tuned exactly like a mandolin. So if you're into Celtic music, you might want to go with the shorter neck version. If you look at Eddie Davis's videos, Eddie Davis was probably the greatest tenor banjo player of his generation. I did get a chance to communicate with him just a little bit before he died, and that was a real great honor. He played a short scale one, but he would tune it in the like a long scale version. It gave it a nice, very mellow tone, made it a bit more of a quiet instrument, nice round sounds. I think he played an OME. You can start looking for your banjo now, and like I said, keep your eye out. I paid like $75 for this off of eBay, and it is. First of all, I knew it was worth a lot more than $75, but nobody else was bidding on it, and I was just like, wow, hey, you know what? This is meant to be. Thank God I got like my dream banjo for actually what I could afford at the time, which was really great. But you can find some really good ones in the $100 to $500 range. You do not have to buy a new one. You do not have to buy a rare antique like this. Find one you can afford. Look for a good quality. You definitely want to make sure that the hoop here is in wood. If it's all metal, don't buy it. A lot of cheap ones made in the 70s, 80s, 60s even in Asia. They can be pretty good banjos, but they're never going to have that tone. Resonator is good. This is a nice bird's eye maple resonator. It doesn't matter that much. Heads are replaceable. Make sure the neck is strong. Look at the truss rods. Make sure there are no cracks at the heel. Like I said, this Epiphone design with the dual truss rod, it actually has two rods in there, makes it a real jazz instrument because the action of the neck can be set as low as a modern electric guitar. I mean, it's amazing. The older ones that don't have the adjustable truss rod, your strings are kind of elevated at this point and the intonation's not as good, so you normally play in this area. Epiphone, what was his name? I cannot remember his name. It's Greek. The guy that actually was an engineer, a sound engineer, and his banjos are amazing. His guitars absolutely is amazing. Absolutely every instrument he designed was as good or better than Gibson. Just absolutely. He designed George Van Epp's 9-string guitar. anything you can buy made by Epiphone when it was still owned by the Greek family, definitely get it. But anyway, start looking around for one now. Start playing around with it. Take what you're learning on the mandolin and transfer it over there. And I think, well, I'll still play a lot of blues. I'll probably get into a little bit more jazz on the mandolin. You know, I mean, on the tenor banjo. On the mandolin, I usually do like blues and old time country, a little bluegrass. On the banjo, I think we do blues and jazz. And it's just going to give you a much more, well, more opportunities to play with more people, more paying gigs if you play multiple instruments and you're into that, but a more expressive range. I mean, this is essentially like having a 5-string mandolin, you know, where you've got, well, that would be like a 10-string mandolin, but again, they're in pairs. You've got that extra C on the bottom. And if you've ever played one of those, or a mandola, you know, they have a very different voice. And it just kind of opens up your expressive range, your creativity in a very different way. So I think it's good to have both instruments. Yeah, if I had my druthers, as we say in the South, I'd have a double neck, like I'd have a mandolin neck here and this here, or maybe a 6-string guitar with a tenor banjo neck on top. That would be awesome. I may actually build one of those someday, Telecaster style. But what I'd really like to have on it is the old Bigsby tremolo. So I'd have to figure out how to, well, anyway. What I'd do is I would build a double neck Telecaster with a 7-string guitar neck and then a tenor guitar neck, just like a tenor banjo neck, which is just like a mandolin neck. And I'd put a Bigsby tremolo on the guitar, but I'd have to, you know, I'd have to custom make the tremolo to make it wide enough to put 7 strings on. And I'd have the sonic range of everything from, you know, a Fender P bass up to a mandolin, and I think that would be pretty awesome, actually. That's one of those projects I may work on someday. If you are a luthier or a woodworker and you want to give it a try, send me a picture. Oh man, I'd love to see that. I don't know why everybody wants a 6-string and 12-string double neck guitar. 12 strings are not, I mean, I played plenty of them. Yeah, if you like that sound, that's cool, but I'd much rather have 2 different instruments on the same body so that I can really, you know, play the kind of stuff that's in my head. Get the bass line going on the guitar, get the chords going, and then play the solos on the higher instruments. That would be awesome. And that's a maybe, but, you know, we'll see. I got a lot of irons in the fire. Anyway, y'all. Tenor banjo or tenor guitar. Tenor guitar is just, tuned the same way. Wonderful instruments, very easy to transfer your knowledge of this one over to this one, and it gives you just a whole lot more opportunities. So look forward in the future. We'll start doing some tenor banjo lessons. Hey, maybe even some tenor guitar lessons. I've got a little one of those around here somewhere, but there's a magic about the tenor banjo. And if you don't really understand what I mean, look up Eddie Davis. It's spelled E-D-D-Y, Davis, D-A-V-I-S. Especially his work with the Alan, what's his name? The comedian. He did the movies like Fanny Hill. Woody Allen. There we go. Woody Allen was actually a really great clarinet player. And he put together a band, and they played soundtracks for his movies, and then they'd also play some limited dates. And Eddie Davis was his banjo player, and it's elegant, it's beautiful music, the way Eddie played the banjo. And look at him with Connell Fawkes. They did duos. Connell would play the piano. Just wonderful. You're going to fall in love with this instrument, and yeah, we'll get to that. I promise. Y'all have a good week. Oops, and I'll talk to you next time.